It is now 2020, and 1917 finally got a wide release, and still didn't get Cats out of my local theater. But that also means that I have seen the last big movie of 2019, so now it is time to rank the 86 movies I saw in 2019. The biggest movies I unfortunately and fortunately missed were Terminator Dark Fate, Midsummer, Annabelle 3, Child's Play, Shadow, I Lost My Body, 21 Bridges, Frozen 2, Ready or Not, Cats, and Doctor Sleep. I did, however, see 5 documentaries, 2 Netflix comedy specials, and 3 short films. But now, on to the feature-length films. 2019 was probably my favorite year for film since 2016. So, let's get to the reasons, ranked from worst to best. Coming in at a very well-deserved dead last is the Haunting of Sharon Tate. One of the worst horror movies I've ever seen, and a disgrace to the life of Sharon Tate. 47 meters down, uncaged. I enjoyed Sharknado a lot more. Unicorn Store. Brie Larson has got to grow the hell up, and Samuel L. Jackson has to stop taking every script that is thrown at him. Maria. The worst foreign movie of the year. A movie so unbelievably bad and cringy, you just gotta watch it for yourself to truly understand. Have a vomit bucket next to you, though. Godzilla, King of the Monsters, the worst big budget movie of the year. Alien Warfare, basically on the same level as the short films I used to make as a child. Rim of the World, if you want to see a group of amazing kid actors, watch it. Destination I.O. Last on Earth, or whatever the hell it's called. The Silence, A Quiet Place knockoff with Stanley Tucci. Skip. Secret Obsession, the exact same as these movies. Malibu Rescue. So bad, it's great. Murder Mystery. The annoying white couple goes on vacation and are as irritating as possible. Cold Pursuit. I think the extended edition. 2 very long hours of Liam Neeson becoming a parody of himself. In the Tall Grass. Stock footage of plants and time loops. The worst of the 3 Stephen King adaptations I saw this year. Velvet Buzzsaw. A group of very unlikable snooty artists get killed by art. Men in Black International. Men in Black turns into Spy Kids. Triple Frontier. Good cast, but they keep throwing the money away! And you can tell it wasn't that great because that's what I cared most about. Captain Marvel, an okay introduction to this character I guess, but this movie contains the worst Marvel moment of all time. Savaha. That one was definitely not right. The Sixth Finger. A well-shot movie, a very well-shot movie actually, with a very charismatic lead and a very intriguing and exciting third act, but a sleep-inducing and messy first and second act. The Professor and the Madman. Mel Gibson and Sean Penn star in, at first, the most boring movie of the year, that then does pick up in the third act, similar to The Sixth Finger. Dumbo, the most mediocre Disney remake of the year with some really, really terrible child acting. I'm sorry, it's what it is. Alita, Battle Angel, could have been a lot better, but the visuals, of course, were very impressive. Escape Room, not bad, not good, mild entertainment at best. Polar, the most shameful, guilty pleasure of the year. Aladdin, a very awkward and uncomfortable movie to endure sometimes, or a lot of the time, but Will Smith and Mina Masood, that's the best I'm gonna do, oh god, were very good together. The Lion King, simultaneously infuriating and captivating. Captive State. Some elements were amazing, but the amount of potential that was ignored it's unbelievable. Bolden. A very weirdly structured true story about Buddy Bolton. Angel Has Fallen. Explosions. Morgan Freeman, Gerard Butler, and Nick Nolte. Take that how you will. I'll let you decide if that's a good combination of things or not. Close. Sadly, a pretty generic movie, but the two leads are very good together. Point Blank. Sadly, a pretty generic movie, but the two leads are very good together. The Red Sea Diving Resort. A very strange but entertaining spy-ish thriller. Pet Sematary. A mediocre horror movie remake with a surprising amount of effective family drama. Hellboy. Okay, here we go. I enjoyed this movie a lot as fan service. Even though I know how cluttered this movie is, it's a guilty pleasure through and through for me. Stuber, the most rapid-fire comedy of the year. Most jokes worked. The rest? No. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw. Exactly what it wanted to be. Tokyo Drift is still king though. Gemini Man does not deserve as much hate as it's gotten. The so-called game-changing effects were great, and sometimes really, really terrible. Star Wars Episode 9, Damage Control, The Rise of Skywalker. There is a list of, I'd say like 4 or 5 good moments in this movie. And I'm talking those moments were really good. Otherwise, they messed up the rest. This movie is this generation's Return of the Jedi. Pretty disappointing if you ask me. Always Be My Maybe. A rom-com that flipped the script quite well actually, and has a really hilarious scene with Keanu Reeves. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Really nostalgic actually for me, and a very fun time at the movies as well, but way too many jump scares. Brightburn. Everyone in this movie does a great job, and this is more or less a fine movie with some pretty unnerving scenes. Detective Pikachu. A fun adventure, even though, after waiting my entire freaking life, not the live-action Pokemon movie I would have expected. Jumanji, The Next Level. A sequel that was pretty much as good as the first one. An entertaining and funny, but occasionally really cringe-inducing. The Highwaymen. Mr. Costner and Mr. Harrelson work very well together in this slow-burn manhunt movie. John Wick 3, Parabellum. Of course, not as good as the first, but the quality of the stunts, shootouts, and kills is memorable nonetheless. Long Shot. This one's underrated, with some of the best romantic chemistry this year. Ironic. Lego Movie 2, the second part. A fairly well done sequel that gives us a fun time with the characters that we now know and love. Although definitely made for kids this time, the Lego animation never ceases to amaze me. The Dirt. 2019's Wolf of Wall Street. Not as good of a movie, but a good representation of excess with some very well realized performances. Maybe the most rated R movie of the year. Maybe. We Have Always Lived in the Castle. One of the most confusing, frustrating, nonsensical, and nerve-wracking films ever. And I loved it. Between Two Ferns, the movie. Possibly the funniest movie of the year. Crawl. Tarantino's favorite film of the year. Man, I don't quite get that, but it's still a very good watch. Les Chiens de Loup, or The Wolf's Call. A really intense French movie that way more people should have watched instead of watching Murder Mystery and The Silence on Netflix. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Haunting and welcoming at the same time, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood flips the script on us in terms of how the movie plays out, and it's for the better. Not at all what I expected, but an impactful story nonetheless. The Peanut Butter Falcon, yet another slept-on movie that can bring you out of depression, with Zach Gottsagen, Shia LaBeouf, and Dakota Johnson giving you very genuine performances. Shazam! DC, you're stepping it up this year. I like it. Glass. Man, talk about an electrifying concept for the end of a surprise trilogy. I'd say I loved 60% of this film, while the rest was either passable or fell flat.
I Am Mother.
Probably the most surprisingly good movie of the year, Clara Rugaard Larson, I think I got that one, gives a very empathetic performance, and I love how the movie is the complete opposite of its generic poster and its generic synopsis. Zombieland Double Tap. An absolute blast. With these actors performing so naturally, we have an innovative sequel with some weight behind it. Missing Link. While I do think the characters and concept were executed excellently, the best thing about this movie to me was the incredible world they composed. I haven't seen an animated world this vibrant since Coco or Kubo. And yes, while you can tell, even though this movie's pretty violent, that it's made for kids, I'd still be happy to see 10 more spin-off movies set in this world with other great characters. Red Dead plus Tintin plus Indiana Jones plus Zelda plus Mountain Monsters equals Missing Link. Okay, don't try to make sense of that. Just know I really enjoyed this one. Spider-Man Far From Home. While not one of my favorite Spider-Man movies, watching this directly after Endgame, there were so many genius world-building elements that were on display, and Peter Parker's character is deepened even more in this generation's Spider-Man 2. Us. I think I like this one a little bit more than Get Out because of the family dynamic, and the fact that this one actually kinda scared me. Plus, Lupita Nyong'o. Amazing and terrifying. Dolomite Is My Name. Man, could you tell that Eddie Murphy was having a good time with this movie? One of my favorite casts of the year. Everyone in this movie seems like they were having an absolute blast. This movie looks great and is freaking hilarious. Rocket Man. With Elton John being probably my favorite artist, I thought this was a fantastic biopic / musical with one of the best performances of the year and only a few setbacks. Dragged Across Concrete. Tough as nails, as the title would suggest, I think this is a seriously underrated movie with 2 great performances, a solemn, mature feel to it, and a nearly 2-minute scene where Vince Vaughn eats an entire sandwich. Yesterday. Amazingly realized characters and vocals. I only realized recently how great a foray into drama fantasy this really is. The Nightingale. After my PTSD therapy, I reflected on this genuinely human journey that saddened, satisfied, scared, and scarred me all at the same time. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. Man, this movie gets better every time I think about it. Maxwell Simba was great, and I still think Mr. Ejiofor deserves a nomination, even though it's a bit too late now. And this is the 3rd best 2019 Netflix movie. How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World. A bittersweet and beautifully rendered 3rd film in this amazing series. Richard Jewell. Yet another one of the most underrated movies of the year and another great based on a true story movie. Richard Jewell shows the shady side of a very trusted group of people in the States and around the world as well, while simultaneously giving us some of the most compelling characters and one of the most compelling duos of the year in Paul Walter Hauser and Sam Rockwell. Knives Out. A whodunit like never before, that's for sure. If you want to see a star-studded cast bring their best to a very clever and unique murder mystery, this is your ticket. And another movie you should watch besides Murder Mystery. Where you going, Eds? Oh god, okay, ow. It Chapter 2, a very anticipated sequel of mine this year, and it delivered. Honestly, I do understand the complaints with the structuring of the film and the scares, but otherwise, the emotional punch was there, and the casting and performances more than made up for it. As far as I'm concerned, this is legendary casting. Toy Story 4. Am I gonna rave about the best animation of the decade? I should, but instead I'll say that as a long-time fan of the Toy Story film series, this movie was not only emotionally satisfying, but the best animated movie of the year. Ad Astra. Already one of my favorite astronaut movies of all time, because I didn't live in the 90s and the 80s and I didn't watch all of these things, but either way, Brad Pitt gives a haunting performance that he just disappears into. A staggeringly somber atmosphere is achieved in this movie that sticks with you, and there is a scene near the end where the visuals are just straight out of a dream I had many years ago. The Lighthouse! Visually, one of my top 3 favorite looking films of the past 2 years. I'm not even joking about that. If you want my full in-depth thoughts about this perplexing tour de force, here it is. Go watch it. But either way, Robert Pattinson gives one of the most satisfying performances ever that shows an amazing evolution, and Willem Dafoe plays a very lore-heavy character with all the Willem Dafoe flair that you can dig into for days. Jojo Rabbit. Talk about satire. This film in concept is genius. This film in execution, also genius. Taika Waititi makes his best film with a star-studded cast, subtle humor, and insanely well-written characters. Roman Griffin Davis, worthy of a Golden Globe nomination? 10 times over. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tarantino's latest 3-hour blockbuster hit all my cylinders and has the best use of a flamethrower I have ever seen. Uncut Gems. My God, we needed this from Adam Sandler. After having to endure Jack and Jill, Grown Ups 2, Murder Mystery, and Pixels, this is a blessing from the gods. Sandler has given us his best work here and is easily in the top 3 performances of the year, and the Safdie brothers pull off a script I can't even comprehend. How they pulled off a tour de force where every scene sounds like this hurts my brain. Marriage Story. I refuse to believe that Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver were not actually going through something here, because for God's sakes, man, you remember that scene in Captain Phillips at the end where he was going into shock and you were like, dude, there is no way Tom Hanks is not actually going into shock right now? That's both these performances throughout the entire movie. I don't mean they're in shock. I mean, they're that real. Fighting with My Family. A movie that hit me like a freight train of emotion. With its mature take on a truly compelling family, this is the biggest surprise of the year for me. And don't look at the poster thinking The Rock is going to be in it the whole time, because that's just a mistake. Hotel Mumbai. After Patriots Day, I thought I could handle any kind of violence. I was wrong. This is the one movie that made me tear up this year. The Irishman. Damn. Scorsese and Tarantino bring in the heat this year. And I think Scorsese wins this one with his 3-hour and 28-minute mobster flick. But a very somber and layered one at that. If I write 2 pages of praise and do a 56-minute live stream, you know it's gotta be a near masterwork. Joker. My most anticipated movie of the year besides Endgame. I don't like to think of this movie as a Joker movie per se, though. If I view this film as a psychological drama that is completely separated from the DC universe, there is not one single flaw I can find. Plus, Joaquin Phoenix was pretty good, I guess. He didn't even break character when he went up and received his Golden Globe. 1917. The only way I can truly get even half of my thoughts out about this film, I would need an entire 10-part analyzed series, which I frankly don't have the time for, nor the footage for. So I'll just say that this movie is a phenomenon. A modern epic, which is truly one of the most immersive and frightening films I've ever seen. As a person who works on movie sets himself, I don't know how they did it. It's like they built an entire world just to put a few cameras, incredible actors, and a crew in it. In film, you gotta go home for the night, send the crew for lunch, block new scenes, rig stunts, have safety meetings, retake, brief actors, and a few million other technical things. This film makes me forget about all of it, and puts me in the gruesome fields of World War I. It's a little too well done, this one is. Ford vs. Ferrari. I knew I'd like this movie. I didn't know I'd frickin' adore it. Christian Bale and Matt Damon star in the best, based on a true story this year that just blew me the hell away with the amount of heart and style this movie possesses. What can I say? It's the best racing movie I've ever seen, and that one shot from the trailer? How? Parasite. With the amount of attention this movie has been getting, you might assume it's a little overrated. Well, I would beg to differ. All the way. If Fighting with My Family got my emotions and made me care about one family in that movie, Parasite does this with two families and fleshes both of them out even more. And I think that's why Parasite is this high on the list. Sure, it encapsulates 50 genres at once, was directed by a genius, looks beautiful, and has powerful messages, but it also makes me truly feel attachments to all the complex characters that didn't even pre-exist in other movies. Parasite had me laughing, giddy with excitement, scared, in awe, confused, and begging to see it again as soon as possible. Not to analyze it, but just to be with all these characters again. Number 1. Well, here we are. Where did this list bring us?
Back to me.
I think it's just the fact that we've been with these characters for so long, saw them written like real people, with real emotions, histories, and bonds, that all came to a head here in this 3-hour finale that made me put Endgame here at the top spot. I think it's also the fact that the visual effects, cinematography, and story were handled this maturely and with so much devotion that made me put Endgame here at the top spot. If I can be blown away by a scene where Steve Rogers talks about a pot of whales to Black Widow, or a scene where Happy Hogan talks to a little child about what she wants to eat, just imagine what the rest of it is like. Avengers Endgame takes a string of relationships, deaths, and events and cuts it perfectly.